11, Michigan's first earthquake in years.
Just kind of a shock, and everybody had a eye open, their eyebrows up,
Felt across Metro Detroit by hundreds of people.
I heard this loud roar come through, and then the whole house started vibrating.
7 Action News broke the news live on air after calls came flooding in.
Yeah, this was an earthquake. A lot of people said it felt like an earthquake, things shake a little bit.
Now we're listening to families describing the jolt and asking experts if we should expect more.
A rare active nature in Metro Detroit. An earthquake powerful enough to be felt across the area and leave cracks in the walls. Good evening to you. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. I'm Carolyn Clifford.
And I'm Dave Llewellyn. It certainly wasn't your average Friday evening. Our first earthquake in 5 years struck right in Lake Erie near Detroit Beach, but it could be felt as far as Belleville.
Well, now at 11, 7 Action News has Team 7 coverage of this rare Metro Detroit earthquake. Let's start with Alan Campbell, who found some damage. Tell us about it, Alan.
Well, Carolyn, Dave, it was a scary night for a lot of people, as we know, but it was definitely scary for Debbie Mullins. You see, she was getting ready to watch TV. In fact, 7 Action News at 7, when suddenly that earthquake struck, and she says it left cracks inside her home.
We heard a great big old rumble, loud boom, and the whole house started shaking.
It was 6:55 p.m., dinner time for some. For others, like Debbie Mullins, she was watching TV when suddenly...
I thought, because the airplanes are kind of high above, I thought they had went down, and it was riding along the ground.
It was a 3.4 magnitude earthquake, 3 kilometers southeast of Detroit Beach. The shaking could be felt miles away.
I heard this loud roar come through, and then the whole house started vibrating.
Justin Collins was in Monroe at his parents' house when he too felt shaking.
Just out of nowhere, a giant rumble comes across the entire house, shakes the house. The dogs started barking. It lasted maybe, I'd say 3 seconds, 4 seconds long.
Debbie is still shaken up, but is glad no serious damage was done.
Just hope everybody's okay and fine. That's all that matters.
And tonight, a lot of people describing that earthquake the same way. They say they heard a loud boom, they say their house shook, and they say it sounded like a freight train was coming through their home. One thing Debbie tells me tonight, she doesn't want to experience again. Reporting live in Belleville, I'm Alan Campbell, 7 Action News.
Interesting Friday night. Got everybody talking. Alan, thank you for the live report there. Chief Meteorologist Dave Rexroth continuing our team coverage now. Dave, you broke this news on our news at 7 tonight that this, in fact, was an earthquake, and certainly many people felt it.
Yeah, I want to give you kind of oriented here of where this happened again. This is the western side of Lake Erie. We're in Monroe County. Here's Stony Point, Detroit Beach, and there's Monroe and I-75. Now this is about a mile. We got the first update right after it happened, then we get a second more accurate update. So about a mile to the southeast of Detroit Beach under Lake Erie here. Some details including about the depth and all that kind of action, but really the time and the strength, the most important thing here. So 6:55, again about a mile or so southeast of Detroit Beach. 3.2 on the Richter scale. Now that's considered a minor earthquake, usually just barely noticeable, but when they're noticeable, they get a lot of attention. The depth is important here because 6 miles deep is a shallow earthquake, all right? But that's important because shallow earthquakes can be felt a long way away. Shallow earthquakes are more common than anything else. They're less powerful, but they're felt over large areas. Again, this is along a minor fault in our area. The strongest that we've had in Michigan, a 4.6 back in 1947.
Wow. All right. Thank you so much, Dave. Well, now we want to bring in an expert, someone who actually studies earthquakes.
Dong Yao is a postdoctoral research fellow at the University of Michigan. Sir, we thank you for joining us tonight. Let's begin with this, what would you call a minor earthquake. Is there any possibility we could see additional quakes in the hours or in the days ahead?
Hello, yeah. So that's a good question. So basically, from my research in this region, it's quite rare to have following up earthquakes. After those minor earthquakes, it seems like those earthquakes just occurred by itself and then, becoming quiet again. So I won't expect to see, some other shocks as well.
Dr. Yao, what would bring on an earthquake right now? I mean, does it have anything to do with the weather or anything like that?
Well, if I believe the depth from the, I mean, so the depth, right, as you mentioned, is like 6 miles. So, this is actually have a large uncertainty because, it depends on the network we have. If we don't have like a very dense network right on top, it's very hard to resolve the depth to that accurate. So if I trust the depth, actually, as this dip, right, it's pretty, unimaginable to see, it might link to the weather or even like the lake water level change, unlike the area earthquake, because area earthquake last year, which is very shallow, like 2 kilometer depth. So that one might be, more linked to the surface process.
Very good. Doctor, we appreciate the information tonight. It happens, but just not that frequently here for sure. We thank you for your time. We thank you for your time this evening.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
Well, the earthquake shook a big part of the region, but not everyone in the same area experienced the same thing. We asked people in Trenton tonight what they felt when the quake hit.
All of a sudden, pretty much just a shock wave rolled through, and I looked up and the big maple tree in my front yard rocked. All the pictures rocked.
I didn't feel a thing. I was down the street at my mom's house and watching a hockey game and never felt a thing. I didn't know anything happened until you told me it did.
Yeah, that's right. As we said, this is rare for Michigan.
Yes, indeed. We went back through the records at the U.S. Geological Society. The last earthquake in the state was a magnitude 3.3 in Union City. That was in June of 2015. In May of 2015, there was a 4.2 magnitude earthquake in Galesburg.
Phones lit up in the Action Newsroom, as you might imagine, following the rumble of the earth. One woman we spoke to soon after it happened lives several miles from the airport. She and her husband felt their home shake. And at first, Karen Gunderson thought it might be a low-flying plane.
I looked at him and I go, what was that? He just grinned and he goes, maybe an earthquake. It didn't last long. And it was just like, where did it come from? And what? And I said to him, I felt the house move. He goes, yeah, I know, so did I.
We posted this on the WXYZ Facebook page earlier tonight, and we got 1,100 comments within just a half hour. So many of you wanted to share your experience. We sorted through some of them. One viewer, Chanel, says she lives in Woodhaven, and although she did not hear a boom, the quake shook her home. Ophelia Shirley says that she lives in the Midtown downtown area, and her apartment building shook. She says as she was reading, she could hear a boom right before the shake, scaring her. Viewers in Monroe could also feel the aftermath. Doreen and Britt Johnson say their loved ones called them, alerting them to the loud rumbling noises. Kathleen from Westland also joining in, saying she could feel it as well. And Lauren Higgins, who lives the closest to the area of the Detroit beach, says it sounded like a semi-truck was driving down her street. She says it reminded her of the time a comet flew over the area just a few years back. Very scary moments for a lot of our viewers. We certainly thank you for sharing. And hey, we'd love to hear your experience as well. Just go to WXYZ, our Facebook page, to share your thoughts or your experience. And of course, check WXYZ.com for all the updates on this latest earthquake.